a lot of people know how to set goals, but they don't often know, how to actually go out and achieve those goals, and how to set like specific goals, and how to set, a timeline for the goal. So like most people know, okay, if I set a goal, for example, okay, they know what that is, but they don't know like the justs of it, and like, changing things like habits and things like that. So I think, that is an important topic to cover, because I feel like goal setting is the foundation of all the mental skills out there. And then on top of that, I think another thing that maybe a lot of people are struggling with is building confidence, and how to build confidence, and how to, go and do the scary stuff out there, and like not sit and stick into their comfort zone, and actually like take risks, and just feel like, I'm actually doing this thing. I'm doing the scary thing, and I feel good about it. So I think obviously even with those two topics, like a lot of things will be covered in between it, like visualization and mindfulness and those kind of things, and habits. But I think having those two as almost like the main points to talk about is something that I really do want to tap into.
All right. So I'm actually going to keep this whole section. So I'm going to take this opportunity to say, what's up, PowerUp community? This is the Coach David. We've got Mindset Mona on today. Given the name, we're here to talk about mindset. Usually we start with the intro, but we're already into the conversation. So I'm probably just going to be keeping this whole part. So you'll have heard some good stuff already about what we're going to talk about. What I will ask Mona to do real quick is kind of just introduce yourself, maybe kind of how you found out about PowerUp. I know we had a question from one of the community members on how did Mindset Mona find the most amazing husband on the planet. So you can talk about that a little bit if you want. But yeah, man, just tell us a little bit about yourself for those who are listening live or listening to this later.
Thanks, David. And it's amazing to be joining the Discord group. Like I said, I'm very new to it. And I did find you guys through my husband, James DeLacy, that I know he's been on here as well before. So basically just a little bit of a brief history about myself. I have been an elite level athlete for going on 22 years now. I have been a 6-time karate world champion, a CrossFit Games athlete, and a Commonwealth Games medalist in weightlifting. I've been doing weightlifting now for 22 years, and I have been a medalist in numerous international events, and broken probably close to 70 South African records and some Commonwealth youth records in between there. And on top of that, I studied sports psychology. And, being in sport my whole life, I didn't even know as a youngster that, I was training mental skills. So thanks to my dad, he introduced me to mental skills training at a very young age. And that has carried over to how I've done things my whole life with regards to staying motivated, not quitting, doing the scary things, doing the visualizations and all of those kind of things. And it was something that has just always really interested me, because I know how powerful the mind is. And I've also gone through a lot of ups and downs in my life where, even with the downs, when I would not train my mental skills, I feel like I would learn the hard way. And, just like how you would train a physical muscle, you need to train the mind. So that was something that really fascinated me. And that's why I started studying sports psychology. And basically with sport and, studying sports psychology, they go hand in hand. And that's how I started working as a mindset coach. And now I'm here.
Just as far as what you've been able to accomplish is extremely impressive, and obviously, gives even more validity to the power of mindset, and especially being that, you kind of got to learn some of that stuff at a very early age. One of the things, and the reason I went ahead and jumped right into kind of the intro and right into the recording, for me, I haven't done any, crazy world champion record-breaking stuff. I've been a trainer for 7 or 8 years now, full-time the whole time. So I've just had the opportunity to coach just a large amount of people over those years being, a full-time trainer in a box gym. You're just, turning clients. One of the things that you had talked about as far as mindset being the base of all goals was something that I learned a few years ago when I had the opportunity to start training a guy who had been an emotional intelligence coach for about 20 years. He was one of the top of the industry at what he did, traveled all over the world. He still is, obviously, the travel, I still train him. Travel's cut down a little bit from COVID, but it was interesting getting to talk and work with him about emotional intelligence because in training and in fitness, what I've always, determined to be the hardest goal for somebody to achieve was weight loss. And because so much of that goal existing in the first place, if somebody needing to lose weight or having trouble losing weight on their own, is so deeply grounded in mindset, in emotional intelligence, in those skills. Because we face it, if you're trying to add muscle or get strength, it's fun going into the gym and smashing weights, right? But the weight loss is just such a more difficult, such a more mental goal. With that, tell me a little bit about your experience in that.
Well, firstly, I definitely agree with you with regards to, with anything, how important mindset is. And I think especially, something like weight loss, it's not as simple as, okay, I'm just going to change my eating plan and I'm going to lose weight. Because yes, it is easy to go on these fad diets every now and again and do lose a couple of pounds. But a lot of people end up, just gaining it straight back. And, it ends up not just, coming back, but it ends up messing, I think, with a person's mind too, because a lot of people can't understand how can I achieve these weight loss goals and how can I continue to make this a lifestyle instead of actually, just losing the weight. And I think the biggest thing is having a goal in mind of what you want to achieve is so important. But even higher that, or what's even more important is your habits. When you have to change habits, people don't realize you have instilled habits into your life that's maybe been there for 15, 20, 25 years. And to just change a habit isn't just going to happen overnight. And I think, just like a lot of things in life, people want to achieve things really quickly. And by realizing that to achieve a weight loss goal and to make it a lifestyle, first and foremost, you are going to have to make small little changes to your habits that will ultimately lead to you basically losing weight. And then obviously once the weight loss will start to, basically start to work and you're starting to lose weight, then things like, your confidence will start to go up. You'll start to feel better about yourself. And then a big thing is you'll start to talk to yourself better. Instead of breaking yourself down, why am I not losing this weight? I'm not good enough, all those kind of things. But the biggest thing out of everything is having that mindset shift of knowing that this isn't just going to be an overnight process. It is something that I'm going to have to work on. These are habits that I'm going to have to change that's been instilled in my life for forever. And the main thing is, for people to start small. I think the biggest thing is so many people want to start big. And as soon as they start big with goals, habits, it gets scary and they end up quitting really quickly after they actually started. So if you can start smaller and make it something that becomes sustainable, that will also be a lot easier to be on your journey to weight loss.
100%. And I think we're really starting to see the gravity of this. If people have been able to follow along with the different episodes we've had so far, everybody's touched on this as far as the small habits, right? So we're setting the goals. It's great. We've got kind of that. We know we want to get from point A to point B. Part of it being deconstructing what point B looks like to create kind of that list of habits and then picking those small habits. People think that working out 5 times a week, meal prepping, drinking a gallon of water, 3-4 other, common things, those are big changes. And people overlook how impactful a small change could be of having a glass of water right when I wake up. Instead of going from 1 glass of water and 5 sodas a day right to 0 sodas and a gallon of water a day.
Yes, I definitely agree. And that's why you have to make your habits like attractive, and like you were saying now, you can't just, if you're used to drinking 5 sodas a day and now all of a sudden going and drinking a gallon of water, is this going to be sustainable for you? Just starting off by maybe cutting out the sugary drinks and maybe drinking a sugar-free drink, just making these small little changes and just saying, instead of driving everywhere, if I can maybe park my car a little further and just walk to the shop, or just doing the little things that's going to just add up at the end of the day. And there's a book that I read that was really powerful, and that it was Atomic Habits. And in Atomic Habits, they speak a lot about doing these small little changes, and having them add up is better than going really big really quickly, and then a person ends up failing or quitting really soon, because the thing is, it's something that's not sustainable. And for anything in life, if you want to make lifestyle changes, if you want to achieve goal, like all of a sudden I go from being sedentary to wanting to start training in a gym. If you go from doing nothing to all of a sudden going to the gym 5 times a week for an hour a day, potentially by the end of the second week, you are going to feel so broken, both mentally and physically, that you probably won't be able to sustain it. But if you can just tell yourself, I'm going to start off with just going to the gym twice a week and maybe going for a walk as a third training session during the week, just doing something small. And even if it's just like 10 minutes a day or 20 minutes, that 10 minutes is something that over 3 months or 6 months is going to add up to be a lot.
I love Atomic Habits. Big fan of James Clear. The book is great for personal goals and personal development, and it's such an easy read that as a coach or trainer, it's also just great to kind of improve your goal setting and habit stacking conversations with people. What would you coaching somebody use? Let me make sure I can word the question to where they're able to identify a habit that is big enough and small enough, right? So it's not, they don't feel that it's too small where it's not going to do anything, but then obviously that's not too big to where they're not going to be able to sustain it. Like what's kind of that conversation, or what's that thought process you have people go through to determine what habit they're going to start with?
Oh, yes. No, I totally understand the question. And I mean, it's the same thing with goals. And if you set your goals way too high and someone ends up not reaching their goal, they feel demotivated, they feel like a failure, they end up probably not even going for that goal again. But then on the flip side of things, if you set your goal too small, or the same thing with a habit, if your habit is, too small and it's not challenging enough, then the very same thing will happen. The person will start to feel demotivated. They won't feel like, they're not really doing any work. So you want to do something that's going to basically feel like it's continually challenging you to a point where it is doable, but it's not going to be so hard that, like, say, for example, you are a beginner level athlete and you tell yourself, oh, in the next 2 years, I want to go to Olympics. You or me as the mindset coach, have to just kind of explain this to the person, like, let's look at what we can achieve in the next year. Instead of looking at, say, potentially the next 2 years, let's focus on the next year. Let's focus on the things that we can currently control. Because, for example, just giving them the example of, like, say, you do want to go to the Olympics. Like, for example, Olympic athletes, that's their full-time profession. You can't train just 3 times a week. Your recovery has to be, 100%. You have to do the mindset training. So it's a lot. But by doing something that you can control and that's going to constantly challenge you and push you to want to go and do that thing. So, for example, just saying maybe you've dabbled into training before, but you haven't really been consistent with it. And you've got this goal that, say, you want to bench press 100 kilograms. Then we would be like, okay, where are you at now? If you are at 90 kilograms, I know you guys probably work in pounds, but so if you're at 90 kilograms, then we're like, okay, so what does it look like? What would we have to do to have you gain that 10 extra kilograms? And maybe the person would say to me, okay, I would probably need to work on my technique. So I'm probably going to have to get a coach. I'm going to have to follow a set program. I'm going to have to go to the gym. Instead of going to the gym once a week or just twice a week, I might need to go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week. So looking at firstly where they are currently at, and then where they want to be, and kind of finding that middle ground is kind of the conversation that you have to have with someone. And yes, there have been people that would come to me and they are like, I want to achieve this goal. But you can't break a person's goals down, but you can make them see that something like that is maybe not in the vicinity right now, but it could be something that we could be looking at later on in life. But figuring out where we are at, what we can control, and how we can still make the goal challenging is what you need to look at.
Where are you? What can you control? And how do we still make the goal challenging? And I do like the part about not stepping on people's goals, right? It's not to say that you can't get to where you're going. Maybe the timeline looks a little bit different. I know, like earlier we were talking about weight loss. I know a lot of times, especially with like even female clients, right? A weight isn't the weight. A weight is tied to, that's what they happen to weigh the last time they felt good about themselves. All right. So you get them in the gym, you get them to do some weight training, get them to do some different things. You start shifting a mindset towards having fun working out, accomplishing new metrics in the gym. And then they look and feel good about themselves and technically are still, 10 pounds over what their goal weight was, but they feel better than they did at that weight. All right. So sometimes it's about, deconstructing exactly what the goal is, why they have it. But then also what I've seen in the past is say like, something crazy like, hey, I need to lose 30 pounds in 30 days. And so, like the conversation we teach our coaches to have is like, yeah, like you could do that. We're not going to, I don't recommend it. It's not going to be necessarily a healthy thing to approach. It's not really going to be sustainable. So let's really talk about this goal. Do you really want to lose 30 pounds in 30 days? Or do you want to lose the weight in a healthy way that's sustainable, and then you can maintain that weight loss in a long term? By the time they go in looking for help, they've kind of hit that end point, and they've tried everything. They just want it done. They're going to do whatever it takes. And like you talked about, if they get on one of those crazy diets or crazy workout plans, like they'll probably lose the weight, and then it's going to come right back, if not more. One of the questions I was curious about is what, if any, what shifts have you seen in mindset, like in your coaching, maybe what's come to the forefront in goal setting or mindset, or what's been necessary to help people forward since COVID?
Well, firstly, also I wanted to just quickly talk about that, what you were mentioning about the weight loss thing, and, about when people reach a plateau and, when things get hard and they maybe have this like outcome goal that they are focusing on. And that's where I like telling them to not just focus on the outcome, but also focus on the process. Because often people are so focused on the outcomes all the time, they forget that they are on this journey. And by focusing on the process goals, I feel like a lot of times they can actually get a lot of value out of focusing on the process. Like they can be like you were saying, wow, I'm actually starting to feel better about myself, oh, well, my skin is starting to improve. I'm starting to sleep better at night. So by focusing on the process sometimes and not, always just the outcome, especially if athletes feel a little bit demotivated, like they're not losing the goal or the weight, or it's taking a bit longer than what they thought, because also everyone's different. So I think, if a person can also just have that mindset shift to be like, okay, instead of just focusing on the outcome, let's focus on the process and how the process is going. And then regarding the mindset shift that I've seen, like during the lockdown and during COVID, I think a lot of people have really battled with routine. And a lot of people, because they are so used to, waking up a certain time in the morning and then, being ready for work, say if they do a 9-to-5 job, or if they are, even an online coach or whatever you might be, people have been so used to being in set routines for so long that when COVID came and the lockdowns happened, I feel like a lot of people got thrown off routine-wise. And by being thrown off routines, and that's also why, even in my sports psychology course, I talk about the importance of routines, because, routines set you up for success. And very similar to habits, if you've got these set routines, that's going to help you get better. At the end of the day, it's really healthy to have certain routines. It might be like waking up a certain time in the morning, waking up and drinking a glass of water, and then saying from like 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. or 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., I'm going to hit the training session, or I'm going to go for a walk and then do my admin work or whatever it might be. So just the thing, what I was trying to work on, like with my clients, was even if they were in lockdown and they did feel lost, I encouraged them to find a set routine that would help them feel a little less lost. And also now that they have extra time, for instance, now they don't have to sit in a car for 2 hours to get to their jobs, or like an hour to work and an hour back if they have to sit in peak hour traffic or something, to actually use that time as a valuable time to actually work on their mindsets. And it doesn't have to be anything hectic. It could even be things like, maybe they've been really stressed. So I would encourage them to, practice some mindfulness training and just being okay with focusing on the things that they can control, and just going outside for, like, say, a 20-minute walk and not taking their phones with them. So I encourage them to take that time to really work on their mindsets and focusing on, just being in a good place. Because I think also that opened up a lot of doors for people to realize that, now I have all this extra time. What am I going to do with this time? So instead of maybe just sitting in front of the TV or, just, sleeping in every morning until 10 a.m., you can use that time to actually work on goals that you've never been able to work on. May it be, prepping your meals, or, just getting in a training session in the morning, or doing little mindfulness trainings, or doing some yoga. Those things are really valuable. And that's why I feel like a person can just encourage someone to add that into their routine. Again, not overwhelming them, but just, adding little bits at a time. And that little bit will add up to be a lot in a couple of months if they've done the little work.
I love it. And yeah, I guess, and I don't even think I really looked at it or saw it in that way, because for me, everything was so crazy that, kind of COVID was a nice break, that people were kind of just so used to, I wake up at this time, I go at this time, I do this. Well, and I had like a newborn and a 2-year-old, so my schedule was run for me and I was up early anyway. But like, these are the things that I do at exactly at these times because people expect me to do these things. I do my workout now, and then they had a lot more free time. And without the structure, we're still getting people like our gyms. We were only shut down for about 2.5 months. So we've been open for quite a while, and we're still getting people back from COVID. Everybody's gained 20, 30, 40 pounds. People are now we're starting to have a lot more people go back to the office. Right, a lot of people have been able to work from home, so now they're starting to do split schedules. So we got people starting to go back to the office. I'm feeling that in the last couple of weeks, having to move some clients around, having to change schedules. Now somebody went from working out in the morning to working out in the evening, and that kind of reminded me of, when we talk to people about those small habits, it's also important because if you're only making one or two small changes at any given time, when life does get thrown off, then you have less that you have to adjust for.
Yes, I totally agree. And also realizing that there's only like so much that we can control. And often we want to control the whole situation, and people go into panic modes. But, by sitting back and just, taking out a piece of paper and just being like, okay, the gyms have closed. I can't go to the office. I can't do this. Like now I'm going to be with my family. What are the things that I can control? And what is the good things? Like I'm also a big believer in doing something like gratitude journaling and stuff like that, because now you might have some more time with your family, which you haven't have had maybe for like a really long time. Or say now lockdown is over and you are going back to the office. Instead of going back to those old habits, Now, take that time and be like, okay, during the lockdown, I learned that how important family is, and I should be giving maybe more of my personal time to my family and put my phone down and switch the TV off and actually doing stuff where I'm really present. And, maybe now, like I said, you go back to work, maybe be like, okay, once a week, I'm going to set out a time that is going to be just dedicated to my family. Or, every night from like 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., it's going to be just my family night. So I think, lockdown has taught us a lot of valuable lessons, but it also taught us that we need to realize that there's certain things that we can control, and the things that we can't control, like we need to kind of try and not let us be stressed out too much about that. Like I'm obviously a professional athlete now, not obviously training as hard because my business is my main focus, but during lockdown, I was in preparation for the Olympics, and I still remember we went into lockdown, and my first thought was, okay, in Romania, I don't have a barbell, I don't have plates. What am I going to do? You kind of go into panic mode. You're like, am I going to lose all my strength? What's going to happen? And I said to myself, okay, what are the things that I can control? We've got bands at home, all these resistant bands. This might not be weightlifting related, but I've got, my boxing gloves, and I've got like some target mitts, and those are the things that I can do. I can still focus on my fitness and my strength, but just kind of in a different way. And I can also now focus a lot on like even my visualization training, and visualization training is also a really powerful tool for athletes, for people who even want to build their confidence, who wants to like just motivate themselves. So those are the things that I could really focus on and just be like, every single person in the whole world is in this situation. And, yes, I don't have a barbell, but also when we moved to when we moved back to New Zealand, I said to myself, I'm going to make sure that we are going to have a little home gym set up so that if we go back into lockdown, I can continue training my weightlifting. So the first lockdown taught me a valuable lesson, and I did what I can to control this, or focused on my controllables. And the same thing when we moved to New Zealand, I said, now I can control the fact that I can have a barbell and a platform at home and continue my training. And that's what I ended up doing.
I'm kind of just soaking it in. I'm loving all of it, man. Obviously, you got a lot of experience in the mindset stuff personally. You got a lot of experience in running your business and coaching it. I love hearing, some of the stuff pop up, from what I've read with Atomic Habits and doing other, mindset courses and coaching and stuff like that. And it is, it's a lot of times, people will overthink it, and they're reacting. And something as simple as, like you said, take out a piece of paper. What can I actually control? Right? Sitting down, taking that little breath, getting reset. I think another, I agree completely that COVID was an opportunity for the whole world to slow down, to kind of just reassess, reset their values. What were they going to spend time on? What were they going to focus on? And then from there, are you going to have the discipline to stick to that? Right? So once you figured out what's important, once things start to go back to normal, are you going to slip back into those old habits? And I'll get your take on that, because that goes for any goal ever. How excited are you going to get about the goal, right? We always talk about New Year's. How excited are you get about the goal? How long are you going to be charging at 1,000 miles an hour towards your goal? And how long is it going to take for you to go back to old habits, right? So kind of what's your take on just the couple things that can best set somebody up for success once they establish that goal, they've identified that it's reasonable, that they can take action towards it, they get excited, they start taking action, and then they feel themselves start to slip back to old habits?
That's a good question, because like you were saying, come New Year's, everyone has 1,000 goals they want to achieve.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of them, like the first half of the year will happen and they're like, oh no, I haven't even touched any of these goals that I've put my mind to. And like we said earlier, once you've established a goal, the main thing is, like we said earlier, is first and foremost, like start small. That's one of like my first things that I will always say. And then number two, I'm also a big believer in saying, like, I love saying this. I say, ink what you think, because by writing down what you want to achieve and not just like thinking about it also makes it a little bit more permanent, and it's a way to keep yourself accountable. So something that I like to do is I like writing my goals down, and I put them on my wall in the bedroom or in the bathroom, or wherever. I'll have it written in my diary, wherever I can see it, basically daily. So every time I wake up in the morning, or if I open my diary, I see these are my goals, and it reminds me that I need to work on these goals. The next thing that's also important is you want to make sure that, if you've got all of these goals that you want to achieve, okay, I always say try and just have like 2 or 3 main goals that you want to go for. You can always, once you've achieved these 2 or 3 goals, you can always build on that and then set other goals. But by having 10 different goals you want to achieve often makes it impossible for you to go and work towards all those goals, because you'll end up maybe giving just a little bit of yourself to each of these goals, and you are not able to give 100%. So I'm a big believer in, instead of being a jack of all trades, and a master of none, have that one thing that you really are going to set your mind to, and you're going to work towards this thing. Then after that, I would make sure that I have a timeline, because I think the biggest thing is like, especially when people set goals in the beginning of the year, they say, I want to, in 2022, I want to lose 30 pounds. But they know this is the goal, but they don't really know by when they want to lose this goal, or when they want to achieve this goal, sorry. So by saying to myself, okay, by the end of 2022, so say December, I want to lose 30 pounds, then you can be like, okay, then by June, July, I would have wanted to have lost 15 pounds. So that means that, every month I must lose X amount of weight. And now that I've got a timeline of when I want to achieve this goal, I need to have an action plan of how I'm going to achieve this goal. And then like a final thing I just want to add, because obviously you don't want to make this too complex, is once you've achieved the goal, or if you've reached the timeline and maybe you haven't achieved the goal, I always like saying reflection is so important, because reflecting on how the journey went towards working towards this goal, if you achieved it, what went right, what maybe didn't go according to plan if you didn't achieve it, and then if you didn't achieve it and maybe you were just off, just being flexible and saying, like, okay, I might not have achieved it exactly as planned, but I got pretty close. Along the way, giving yourself like, a little reward, because, I also strongly believe that, when you work towards these goals, and it doesn't have to be, food rewards or anything like that. It can be something simple, like, if you are a woman and you want to go and pamper yourself, you can be like, hey, if I do XYZ during this month, that these are my goals, then at the end of the month, I'm going to go and get myself a manicure, or go and do like a facial or whatever. But by rewarding yourself with something small, also these little things are like little motivators along the way to help you achieve your goals.
I love it. Great actionable items, great outline, focus on the controllables. I think this entire segment has been very simple, very clear, very actionable, which is definitely something we want these to be. That we're at about the 30-minute mark. And so, one of our targets is to keep these around 30 minutes, so then people, can actually make sure that they have the time to cut to watch these. Buckle's listening in, so he had a couple comments in the chat. He loved it. Family time is important. Putting down the phones in a different room is very relieving. So he's put some of that. He loved the ink what you think. I hadn't heard it said that way. And I definitely noted that. That was a really cool way of putting it. And then, when we had Wings on, he's got motivational quotes and stuff on his wall. And I think it's important. It's like when people talk about, I haven't made one yet, but people talk about like the dream boards and stuff like that. Just that when it's something you see daily, then you're going to have your daily actions are going to kind of revolve around having that in your mind. But with us wrapping up, is there anything you would like to make sure you finish with?
Yes. So finishing off, I just want to say to, everyone that's listening, might not be regarding goals or anything like that, but it's kind of bouncing off the confidence thing. I want to encourage people out there to go and do the scary things in life. Often, a lot of times we live in a comfort zone and we've got all these like dreams and things we want to achieve, but by doing the scary things and actually like diving into it, even if it's something like going to do a cold plunge, going to do an ice bath or whatever, or going to hike a mountain that you haven't hiked, or doing something with your family, just putting your mind to something like that. I think it's really valuable, especially, just also to help your confidence, but to also make you realize that you are capable of doing these things. And I feel like, a lot of times people are, easy to just live in a comfort zone and just kind of carry on with life. But I do encourage people to go out there, go and chase their dreams, go and achieve their goals. And the way they're going to do that is also by, stepping out of their comfort zone. So that's just something that I felt like, I wanted to share with everyone out there, because that's something that I've been working on myself. And I always feel like once I've done the scary thing, I always feel so proud of myself. And it's the same thing now, like my husband and I are moving to America again. And it's scary because we just moved to New Zealand 2 years ago, but we're doing it also because we're doing this for our life and for our business and all of those kind of things. And we continue to try and push to do the scary things so that, we can feel like we are achieving our goals.
I couldn't agree more. Might be the only quote I actually have in my room, but it's, most people tiptoe their way through life hoping they make it safely to death. And that's what it is. You're kind of coasting in that comfort zone to do what? Right? So I think, I love it. Thank you so much for the time coming on here. Obviously, this is something that you're passionate about and could easily go on for a couple hours. So we're definitely going to make sure that we get you back on here in the next couple weeks as we make our way back around, just so that we can start. Because I think this is great stuff, and I think you have definitely the training, the ability to, once our community sees this baseline work, to kind of help dig into the weeds a little bit more, and then hopefully get some people on with some more specific, like actionable questions and things like that. Thanks so much for being a part of the community. An amazing opportunity to have somebody of your caliber here. And I'll be excited for you guys to be in a closer time zone so it's easier to schedule.
Oh, yes, I definitely agree with regarding the time zone. I think a lot of things will be a lot easier. But also, I want to just say, it's been a huge pleasure being able to talk to you today regarding this. And like you said, I can probably babble on for hours. Such a huge passion of mine. And
I love it.
I think it's a topic that, it needs more attention out there. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where, mindset's not sexy. It doesn't sell. And so the stuff that's not sexy and doesn't sell is the stuff you actually need. And that makes everything else successful. So that's where we got to keep beating down the doors and hoping people listen to the stuff that's actually going to matter and impacting their life. Thanks again so much. Hey guys, we really appreciate you, listening to these episodes. If you caught us live, thanks so much. If you're listening to this later as a recording, please make sure you jump into the Discord, tag, go at Mindset Mona if you've got any questions for her. Say hey to her awesome husband, JD. And just, as you listen to these episodes, look for the different trainers that we have and just reach out, man. They're all here really to help you out. It's a passion thing for most of them, to where, they have the knowledge, they have the experience to really just help you get to where you need to go. And with the breadth of experience that we have in this group, whatever question you have, man, somebody's going to have the answer. And if they don't, we've got the experience to figure it out. Again, thank you guys so much for stopping in and listening, and have a wonderful day.